Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. What happens when a woman justifies her affair as just stress relief and publicly humiliates her husband for being boring, only to discover he's been quietly building a legal case that will strip away everything she took for granted? Can a marriage survive when one partner weaponizes their entire social circle against the other? Or does the truth always find its way to the surface? I pulled into the driveway at 11 p.m. with 3 shopping bags in the passenger seat. The porch light was on, which meant Marcus had waited up again. I grabbed the bags and walked in through the garage, already preparing my defense. He was in the living room folding laundry. Our laundry. The sight irritated me for reasons I could not quite name. He looked up and asked if I had eaten dinner. I told him I grabbed something with co-workers after we finished the quarterly review. It was not exactly a lie. Derek and I had shared appetizers at the wine bar before going back to his place for an hour. But Marcus did not need those details. He nodded and went back to folding one of Mia's school uniforms. The silence felt like judgment. I set the bags down loudly so he would notice them. He did. He asked if I had checked our credit card balance recently. Here we go, I thought. The money lecture. I told him I bought a few things I needed for work. Professional clothes were an investment in my career. Maybe if he cared about advancement, he would understand that. He walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a statement. 3 charges over $500 in 1 week. He did not say anything. He just held it where I could see. I rolled my eyes and told him he never wanted me to have nice things. He worked his boring accounting job and came home and judged me for wanting to feel good about myself. I said he had become the fun police, and I was tired of it. He put the statement down and asked if we could talk about where I had been spending my evenings. I felt my face get hot. I told him he was smothering me with questions. I was a grown woman, and I did not need permission to have drinks with my team after work. I said maybe if he was not so boring, I would want to come home earlier. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said he was going to finish the laundry and go to bed. I told him to do whatever he wanted. I went upstairs and took a long shower, letting the hot water wash away the guilt I refused to name. The next morning, Mia asked why Daddy looked sad while she ate her cereal. I told her some people just do not know how to have fun. I said Daddy was stressed about work and she should not worry about it. She nodded, but her eyes stayed on Marcus as he poured his coffee in silence. At the office, I felt lighter. Work was where I could be myself. Derek was already at his desk when I arrived. He looked up and smiled, and I felt that spark I had not felt with Marcus in years. Jenna from HR stopped by my cubicle mid-morning and teased me about the chemistry between Derek and me. She said everyone could see it. I laughed and told her it was harmless. Just 2 people who actually understood ambition and success. Around noon, Derek stopped by my desk. He leaned against the partition and mentioned the rooftop party the company was hosting Friday night. He said I should definitely come. The view was incredible, and the drinks were even better. I told him I would not miss it. He smiled and walked away. I watched him go and felt a thrill I had not felt in my marriage for a long time. That afternoon, I texted Marcus that I would be late Friday for a work event. He did not reply for 2 hours. When he finally did, he just said, "Okay, no questions, no fight, just okay." It annoyed me more than an argument would have. That evening when I got home, Marcus was in the guest room with his laptop. I walked past and glanced in. He was looking at a calendar on the screen. A notification popped up, something about downtown and a morning time. But he swiped it away quickly when he noticed me in the doorway. I asked what he was working on. He said just organizing some appointments. I shrugged and went to check on the kids. Mia was reading in her room. Ethan was playing with blocks. Everything looked normal. Everything was fine. Later that night, I noticed Marcus had moved his laptop charger and a few files into the guest room. I wondered if he was hiding something, but I was too focused on Friday to care. Derek had texted me a photo of the rooftop venue. The city lights looked beautiful. He said he hoped I was excited. I told him I was. Marcus was already asleep in the guest room when I went to bed. I lay awake thinking about the party and how good it would feel to be seen and appreciated by someone who actually noticed me. I fell asleep smiling. Friday arrived and I spent an hour getting ready after work. I changed into the black dress I had bought earlier that week, the one Marcus had not seen yet, the one I bought specifically for tonight. The rooftop bar was on the 32nd floor of a building downtown. String lights hung across the open space, and the city stretched out below us like a carpet of light. Derek found me within 10 minutes. He handed me a cocktail and said I looked incredible. I thanked him and meant it. We talked near the railing. He stood close enough that I could smell his cologne. He asked about my weekend plans, and I said I had nothing exciting lined up. He said that was a shame because someone like me deserved excitement. His hand touched my lower back. I did not move away. Jenna was filming a group toast across the patio. I saw her phone pointed in our direction, but I did not care. Let people see that I was having fun. Let them see that someone found me interesting. Derek leaned close and whispered that we should get some air on the upper deck where it was quieter. I followed him up the metal stairs. The upper deck was empty, except for a couple leaving as we arrived. The music from below was muffled. The city noise was a gentle hum. He kissed me against the railing. I kissed him back. It felt like waking up after a long sleep. We stayed on the upper deck for 20 minutes. Then he suggested we go somewhere more private. I knew what he meant. I said yes anyway. We left the party together and got into the same rideshare. I saw one of the junior marketing associates watching from the lobby entrance, but I did not care. I was tired of caring what people thought. We went to his apartment. It was clean and modern, and nothing like the cluttered house I shared with Marcus and the kids. We had sex on his couch and then in his bed. He told me I was beautiful and exciting and exactly what he needed. I did not get home until 4 a.m. Marcus was awake in the living room when I walked in. He was sitting in the dark with his phone in his lap. He asked where I had been. I told him the party ran late, and I did not want to wake him with texts. I said I crashed at Jenna's place because I had a few drinks and did not want to drive. He asked if I was sure about that. I said of course I was sure. Why would I lie? He did not answer. He just stared at me in the dark. Then he stood up and went to the guest room and closed the door. I went upstairs and fell asleep immediately. I did not feel guilty. I felt free. Saturday afternoon, I was scrolling my phone when Marcus came into the kitchen. He set his phone on the counter in front of me. On the screen was a photo from someone's Instagram story. It was from the party. In the corner of the frame, barely visible but unmistakable, Derek and I were standing close together. His hand was on my waist. I was smiling up at him. Marcus asked if I slept with Derek. I glanced at the photo and told him it proved nothing. We were standing near each other at a work event. He was being paranoid. He asked again if I slept with him. I told him he was looking for reasons to blame me because he felt inadequate. I said he was becoming obsessed, and it was unhealthy. I asked why he was stalking my social media like a crazy person. He said someone sent it to him. He did not go looking for it. I told him people love to stir up drama. I said if he trusted me at all, he would drop this. He asked a third time. I grabbed my purse and told him I was going to my mother's house because I could not deal with his accusations. I said he was scaring the kids with his anger. As if on cue, Ethan started crying upstairs. Marcus looked toward the stairs and then back at me. He said we were not done talking about this. I told him we were done when I said we were done. Then I left. I spent the night at my mother's place. She asked what was wrong, and I told her Marcus was having some kind of breakdown. She said marriage was hard, and I needed to be patient with him. I did not tell her about Derek. When I came home Sunday morning, Marcus was making breakfast for the kids. He did not look at me. Mia hugged me, but she seemed nervous. Ethan clung to Marcus's leg. I went upstairs to shower and saw a yellow legal pad on Marcus's nightstand. It had a list of dates and locations written in his handwriting. I recognized some of them. The wine bar, the hotel where Derek and I had lunch 2 weeks ago, the parking garage where I told Marcus I was working late. I flipped the pad over and left it there. I did not want to think about what it meant. That night, Marcus's phone lit up on the kitchen counter. The screen said private number. It rang 3 times and stopped. I asked who called. He said probably a spam call. I asked if he was sure. He said yes and put the phone in his pocket. I told him he was acting strange lately. He said I should talk. We did not speak for the rest of the night. Sunday lunch at Marcus's parents' house was a tradition I used to enjoy. Now it felt like an interrogation waiting to happen. I arrived 15 minutes late and blamed traffic. Marcus had been there for half an hour, helping his mother set the table. Barbara greeted me with a tight smile. Raymond nodded from his chair. Kevin, Marcus's younger brother, was already seated. He shook Marcus's hand but barely looked at me. During the meal, I tried to lighten the mood. I told a story about how Marcus had fallen asleep at 9 p.m. on a Friday 2 weeks ago, and I had to watch a movie alone. I laughed and waited for others to join in. No one did. Barbara asked how work was going. I said it was amazing. My boss really valued my contributions, and I was being considered for a promotion. I did not mention that my boss was Derek. I did not mention that the consideration involved more than my professional skills. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Raymond asked Marcus about a basketball game. Before Marcus could answer, I said he was too tired for sports these days. I said he barely had energy for anything anymore. Barbara set down her fork. She asked if everything was okay with us. I said everything was fine. Some people just got old before their time. Kevin stood up and excused himself. Raymond followed him out to the back porch. Barbara looked at me with something close to pity. She suggested that maybe Marcus and I could try marriage counseling. She said her friend had a wonderful therapist who helped her daughter and son-in-law. I told her I was not the one who needed to change. I said, maybe if Marcus was more supportive and less judgmental, we would not be having problems. Marcus pushed his plate away and said he needed air. He left the table. I finished my meal alone, while Barbara cleared dishes in silence. Mia came over and whispered that she did not like it when I said mean things about Daddy. I told her adults were complicated and she would understand when she was older. After lunch, Kevin cornered me in the hallway. He said I was being cruel and he did not know what had happened to me. I told him he did not understand marriage. He was single and had no idea what it was like to feel invisible in your own home. He said I was making excuses for being a bad person. Then he walked away. I left shortly after. Marcus stayed with the kids for another hour. I did not wait for them. That week at the gym, Jenna asked if the thing with Derek was getting serious. I told her it was just fun, a distraction from my boring home life. She said it seemed like more than that. She said people at the office were talking. I asked what people were saying. She said they thought Derek and I were having an affair, and it was unprofessional. I told her people were jealous. I said they could not handle seeing a woman get attention from someone successful. Jenna looked uncomfortable. She said she was just warning me as a friend. I told her I appreciated it, but I had nothing to hide. We finished our workout in silence. My hands were shaking as I closed my locker, but I told myself it was just from the exercise. That evening, Marcus's phone buzzed during dinner. A reminder notification lit up the screen. It said, "Meeting. Personal." He silenced it immediately. Barbara had stopped by to drop off toys for the kids, and I saw her notice it from across the living room. She looked at Marcus with something that might have been understanding. I asked what the meeting was for. He said just something he needed to take care of. I did not push it. I was meeting Derek after the kids went to bed, and I did not want to fight. Later that night, I heard Marcus on the phone in the guest room. His voice was low, but I caught a few words. Paperwork, timeline, documentation. I pressed my ear to the door, but he must have heard me because he stopped talking. When he opened the door, I was standing there. He asked if I needed something. I asked who he was talking to. He said a friend. I said it sounded like business. He said it was both. Then he walked past me and went downstairs. I stood in the hallway, feeling something cold settle in my chest, but I pushed it away. Marcus did not have the spine to do anything drastic. He would complain and sulk and eventually forgive me like he always did. I was sure of it. Mia's dance recital was on a Thursday evening at the community center. The whole family was coming. Marcus's parents, Kevin, my mother, my sister Simone. I knew it would be tense, but I thought I could manage it. I arrived late because Derek wanted to have drinks after work. I told him I could only stay for one, but one turned into 3. By the time I got to the community center, the first performance was already over. I slipped into a seat in the back row. Marcus was in the front with the kids. His parents sat beside him. Kevin was on the other end with Simone and my mother. During intermission, my mother pulled me aside. She asked why I was dressed so provocatively for a children's event. I was wearing a red dress that Derek had complimented earlier. It was not provocative, it was stylish. I told her she was old-fashioned. She said people were watching and talking. She said I needed to think about my reputation. I told her I was fine and she should stop worrying. We went back to our seats. A cousin I barely knew leaned over and mentioned she had seen Derek's Instagram story from last weekend. She said she did not know I was friends with him outside of work. The table went quiet. I said we were co-workers and sometimes we grabbed drinks. It was not a big deal. She said it looked like a big deal from the photos. She showed me her phone. Derek had posted a story from a wine bar with me tagged in the background. We were sitting close and laughing. I felt my face flush. I told her people read too much into social media. Kevin stood up and said he was getting air. Raymond followed him. I smiled and said some people could not handle modern relationships. Simone stared at me like I was a stranger. After the recital, Mia ran to Marcus and hugged him. She asked where Grandma and Grandpa went. They had left without saying goodbye. Marcus told her they were tired. Mia looked sad. I told her they were just old and got cranky at night. Marcus shot me a look but said nothing. That Saturday, I was at the supermarket when a neighbor stopped me in the checkout line. She said she had seen the pictures and she was sorry things were hard right now. I had no idea what she meant. She showed me her phone. Derek had posted another story. This time it was from a hotel bar downtown. I was visible in the background sitting across from him. The timestamp said it was from a Wednesday night. The night I told Marcus I was working late on a presentation. My face went red. I told the neighbor it was a work dinner. She nodded, but her expression said she did not believe me. She told me to take care and walked away. I left my groceries in the cart and went to my car. I sat in the parking lot and called Derek. I told him he needed to stop posting photos with me in them. He said he did not think it was a big deal. He said we were not doing anything wrong. I told him people were talking and it was affecting my family. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, maybe we should cool things off for a while. I asked what he meant. He said the office was buzzing with rumors and HR might start asking questions. He said it was better to be careful. I told him he was overreacting. He said he would talk to me later and hung up. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes trying to calm down. Wednesday afternoon, I took Ethan to the park. Simone showed up unannounced. She said Mia had told her she was having bad dreams about Mommy and Daddy yelling. I told her Marcus was the one making them anxious by being cold and distant. Simone asked how I could do this to my children. She said I was destroying my family for a fling with my boss. I told her she was judgmental and single and had no idea what marriage was like. She said she knew enough to recognize someone throwing away everything good in their life. I told her to leave. She did, but before she walked away, she said she could not watch this anymore. I sat on the park bench with Ethan playing nearby. I felt hollow, but I told myself everyone would come around eventually. They just needed time to see that I deserved happiness too. That night, Mia asked me why Daddy slept in the other room now. She asked if we were going to get a divorce like her friend Emma's parents did. I froze. My voice cracked when I told her of course not. I said Daddy just snored and I needed sleep for work. She did not look convinced. I went to bed early and cried into my pillow where no one could hear me. But even then, I told myself I was the victim. I told myself Marcus had driven me to this by being neglectful. I woke up at midnight and heard Marcus on the phone in the garage. I crept down the stairs and pressed my ear to the door. He was telling someone they should send the final documents on Monday. He said he wanted everything ready before the 15th. I pressed closer, but the door creaked. He stopped talking. I ran back upstairs before he could open the door and see me. I lay awake the rest of the night wondering what documents he meant, but I was too proud to ask. Monday afternoon, I got a calendar invite from HR. The subject line said, Workplace Conduct Review. My stomach dropped. The meeting was scheduled for Wednesday at 2 p.m. I forwarded the invite to Derek and asked if he got one too. He replied 3 hours later saying he did. He said we should talk before the meeting. We met at a co-working space cafe near the office during lunch on Tuesday. He looked uncomfortable. I asked what he thought the meeting was about. He said probably the rumors. He said multiple people had expressed concerns to HR about favoritism and boundary issues. I told him that was ridiculous. We had not done anything wrong at work. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said we had done everything wrong. I asked what he meant. He said we had been reckless. We had been seen leaving parties together, tagged in photos, spotted at bars. He said he was married when we started and I was married now. He said HR had every right to investigate. I told him he was overreacting. I said HR could not prove anything. He said they did not need to prove anything. They just needed to decide we were a liability. I felt panic rising. I asked if he was going to throw me under the bus. He said he was going to tell the truth. He said he pursued me and it was inappropriate. He said he would take responsibility for his part. I asked what about my part. He said I needed to take responsibility for mine too. I told him he was a coward. He said maybe I was right. Then he left. I sat at the cafe for another hour staring at my phone. Derek stopped replying to my texts. I realized he was cutting me loose. The HR meeting on Wednesday was worse than I imagined. The rep asked about my relationship with Derek. I said we were friends and someone was making false reports. She said multiple people had expressed concerns. She listed dates and locations. The rooftop party, the wine bar, the hotel downtown. I said people were targeting me for being a woman. I said they were jealous of my success. She said the company took workplace relationships seriously. She said if Derek and I were involved romantically, it could constitute a conflict of interest since he was my direct supervisor. I denied everything. She said she would be in touch. I left the meeting shaking. Derek avoided me in the hallways for the rest of the week. He stopped replying to all my messages. I went home angry. Marcus was moving more of his things into the guest room. A lamp, a small bookshelf, a framed photo of the kids. I told him he was being dramatic. He said he was done with the lies and disrespect. I laughed and asked what he was going to do about it. He looked at me calmly and said he was going to handle it properly and legally. I asked what that meant. He said I would find out soon enough. I told him he did not have the spine to do anything. He always talked big, but never followed through. He did not respond. He just looked at me with something that might have been pity. Then he walked away. I wanted to scream at him, but Mia was upstairs. I swallowed my anger and went to the kitchen. On Friday afternoon, I was waiting in the school pickup line when I saw Marcus's car 3 spots ahead. He was sitting in the driver's seat with a woman in a grey blazer. They were reviewing papers on a clipboard. I watched as the woman handed him a folder. They shook hands. She got out and walked to her own car. I texted Marcus asking who that was. He replied, saying a professional contact. I demanded to know more. He did not respond. That night, I found a thin binder labeled household on the kitchen counter. I flipped through it, printed bank statements, credit card bills, a page of timestamps and dates, no names, no letterheads, just data. My hand shook as I closed it. I tried to log into our joint bank account that night. A message popped up saying my access had been restricted. It said to contact the primary account holder for assistance. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. Marcus was in the guest room with the door closed. I pounded on it and demanded to know what he had done. He opened the door and told me calmly that he was protecting himself and the children. I asked from what. He said from the consequences of my choices. I told him he was insane. I told him he could not lock me out of my own money. He said the account was in his name. I was an authorized user. He had every right to restrict access if he believed the funds were being misused. I asked if he was seriously doing this. He said yes. Then he closed the door. I stood in the hallway breathing hard. Mia came out of her room and asked if everything was okay. I told her everything was fine, but my voice was too high and she did not believe me. She asked if she could sleep in Daddy's room. I said no. She started crying and ran to the guest room door. Marcus let her in. I went to my room alone and stared at the ceiling. For the first time, I wondered if I had made a mistake. But I pushed the thought away. Marcus was bluffing. He always backed down eventually. I fell asleep telling myself that. Monday morning, I walked into the office tower, feeling fragile but determined. Derek had sent a vague good morning text over the weekend. It was not much, but it was something. I told myself I could salvage this. I could fix the HR situation. I could smooth things over with Marcus. I just needed time. I was walking through the lobby toward the elevator bank when a man in a suit approached me. He asked if I was Lavinia Chen. I said yes. He handed me a large envelope and said I had been served. I stared at him confused. I asked what he meant. He said the documents inside would explain everything. Then he walked away. I stood in the middle of the lobby, holding the envelope. People flowed around me like water around a stone. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. The first page said, "Petition for dissolution of marriage," in bold letters at the top. Below it was Marcus's name, listed as petitioner. My name was listed as respondent. I kept reading. Temporary orders for custody. A parenting schedule giving Marcus primary physical custody pending further evaluation. Financial orders, freezing joint accounts and credit cards until asset division could be determined. Attached were pages of evidence, dates and locations, timestamps from credit card statements, screenshots of text messages I thought I had deleted, witness statements from people at the office party, a signed affidavit from someone who saw me leave the hotel bar with Derek. Everything was documented. Everything was dated. Everything was organized. I felt the world tilt. Co-workers slowed down as they passed. Someone pulled out a phone. I heard the shutter sound of a camera. The papers fluttered from my hands and scattered across the marble floor. I knelt to pick them up and saw the court date circled in red. 2 weeks away. The elevator doors opened, and Derek stepped out with the HR director. He saw me on the floor with papers scattered around me. He turned and walked the other direction. The HR director stared for a moment, and then followed Derek. I gathered the papers and stood up. The lobby spun. I walked as quickly as I could to the parking garage. I sat in my car and read every page, every single page. The temporary custody arrangement meant the children would stay primarily with Marcus starting immediately. I would have supervised visitation twice a week for 2 hours each session until a full custody evaluation could be completed. The financial orders meant I had no access to our savings, our checking account, or our joint credit cards. I could open my own accounts, but the marital assets were frozen. A separate page outlined grounds for divorce, adultery, willful abandonment of marital duties, financial irresponsibility. My phone buzzed. A calendar reminder I did not set. Marcus must have synced it to my phone before restricting my access. It said, "Hearing, family court with the date and time." I tried to call him. It went straight to voicemail. His message said to contact him only through his attorney. The attorney's name and number were listed in the petition. I scrolled through my contacts, looking for someone to call. Derek had blocked my number. Jenna was not answering. My mother would say, "I told you so." Simone would hang up. I had no one. I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. My makeup was smudged. My eyes were red. I barely recognized the woman staring back. I realized Marcus had been planning this for months. While I mocked him for being weak, he was gathering evidence. While I spent money on clothes and wine bars, he was meeting with attorneys. While I laughed at his quiet warnings, he was building a case. The husband I thought was too boring and spineless to fight back had quietly taken everything I assumed was mine. I sat alone in my car, clutching the divorce petition. The courthouse address was printed at the top in clean black letters. My phone buzzed again. A notification from the office group chat. Someone had posted a photo of me kneeling in the lobby, surrounded by scattered papers. The caption said, "Guess she finally got served." 43 people had already seen it. I turned off my phone and sat in the silence of the parking garage. Everything I built, my image, my reputation, my family, had collapsed in the time it took to open an envelope. And I had no one to blame but myself. But even then, even in that moment, a small voice in my head whispered that this was not fair, that Marcus should have tried harder, that Derek should have stood by me, that everyone should have understood I just wanted to be happy. The voice was a lie. I knew it was a lie, but it was easier than the truth. I started the car and drove home to a house that was no longer mine. To children I would only see 4 hours a week. To a life I had destroyed one selfish choice at a time. The hearing was in 2 weeks. I had no idea what I would say. I had no idea how I had gotten here. Except I did know. I had walked here step by step, lie by lie, justification by justification, and now I would face the consequences, alone. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.